Hey there YouTube, what's up? Lou here from Jersey Shore Fabricators. Well, like I've said a couple times in the past, sometimes you just got to shut down and take care of your own stuff. Case in point, I got my 98 Ranger here. This is my daily beater, shop truck, going out to dinner truck, whatever you want to call it. So it's been a good truck. I've had it for about a year. Hasn't been without its issues, 200,000 miles on it. And the other day we ran some brake problems. So figured out that when the calipers were seized up, replaced both calipers. If you're going to do one, you might as well do the other. They both wear at the same time. While I had it up in the air, noticed that there was a tie rod end that is very, very bad on it. More importantly, I couldn't change rotors because the caliper bolts are fused to the truck. One of the great things about living up here in New Jersey, anywhere in the Rust Belt, is we got lots of rust. But rust keeps us in business. So if you got a situation like that where you don't know how to get out of it, you're stuck, hopefully what you learn here today is going to help you out. Alright, so like I was saying, we got a tie rod end here. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. That is pretty bad. So we're going to knock that out. And I'm also going to knock out those caliper mounts and get the new rotors on it so that we don't destroy a perfectly good set of new brake pads. Okay, so like I said, I replaced these calipers and brake pads a couple of days ago. So you're going to have a 13 millimeter bolt here, 13 millimeter bolt here. Take those out. And once you get those out, on your car you may need a pry bar or screwdriver. Get up in here and pull off the caliper. In my case, hopefully, there we go. Caliper comes right out. Now, a real good practice is to take a wire tie or a piece of wire and tie your caliper up so that if it falls, it doesn't break your brake line or break that really, really rusted brake, your brake hose, or break that really, really rusted brake line right there. And everything's wet because it's been raining for like a week straight. Middle of May, New Jersey, 50 degrees, rain. And I'm telling you, this winter is never going to end. Now, once you get everything apart, let me get some light in here for you guys. What you're after is going to be that bolt that's rounded off there, and that bolt that's not rounded off but is stuck and fused to the truck. There's a couple of different ways that we could go about this. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so like I showed you, this one here is completely rounded off. One of the things that you can do before you do this is get a torch, like a MAP gas torch. Try heating them up because there's Loctite in there, and that's usually what holds them on. But a good impact should be able to run that right out. In my case, unfortunately, I've used an EP gas torch. I've even used an oxy torch. But because this bolt up here is so damaged, from rust and me screwing around with it, I even tried hammering on. Now these are 15 millimeter, but I even tried hammering on a 14 millimeter, a 9/16, and they're just not having it. This ain't gonna happen. So, what do? Well, go get your old friend the cutting wheel, or whiz wheel, whatever you want to call it, and zip those suckers right off, here and here. Don't worry about damaging the knuckle too much. As long as you pay attention, keep the blade flat. If you gouge it a little bit, not a big deal. And then you can take everything off. And the nice thing about the Rangers is that they have flyaway rotors, so you just pull the whole assembly off. I'll show you that in a minute. Alright, let me get the whiz wheel. I'm going to have to do this off camera because I'm going to need both hands, and I don't have a tripod. So I'll get back to you once they're off. Alright, so like I said, I had to do this off camera. But we are cut there, and we were cut up there. Now this one you can see the head is completely gone, and this has already started to move. Down here, before you start wailing on this with a hammer, You notice there's still a part of that washer left. So we're going to take a grinder, grind that off until all we see is the shoulder of the bolt, and then it's ready to come off. If you try to do this now, you're just going to hurt yourself. Okay, so like I said, we got that all ground off there. We got one stud ready to come out, one stud ready to come out. Now, let me move this because I didn't tie this up like I said to. So now at this point, if I could do this with one hand. And that's what we're left with. So, now that you did that, now before you started, I'm sure, because you people are smart, that you went to the store, you already have your new bracket in hand, because it came with your calipers, but you're also going to need these Dorman bolts, 13898. And these are pretty universal across the Ford universe. Yeah, the universal universe, sure. And these are exact replacement. They already come with Loctite on them. And the installation is reverse of the removal. Put everything back together, get it back on the ground, you're good to go. Now when you get your new rotors, it's going to come with this oily substance on it. That's to keep them from rusting while they're on the shelf. And no good brake job would be complete without brake liner, my favorite. So what I like to do, the fronts first. Okay, so give it a spritz, clean towel, rag, whatever, because we're trying to get contaminants off of this. The last thing you want to do is put more contaminants back into it. And then the reason why I do the front first is so that when we turn it over, it sits on the face of the hub and not on the actual back of the rotor. Sorry, I keep on moving this thing around all over the place. I really need to invest in a tripod. Okay, so you got your new rotor, new bracket, two new bolts back here. I'm sure there's a torque setting. I usually run it down with an impact, but I find a 1/2-inch socket. Go smash it down a couple of times, and it shouldn't go anyplace. Although I will be honest, I did have one fail on a GMC Denali where I did that, and a couple of days later it came back with a horrible vibration. Only one stepping on the brakes, and that was just to find out that, well, one of the bolts backed out. Okay, so now, before we put everything back together, take a little disc brake caliper grease here. You want to go along the edges, along these ears here. This will keep everything moving the way it's supposed to. Anywhere there's a friction point. And then what I like to do, because of harmonics and things like that, is right here on the face of the pistons. Give her a little lubage. Brakes move, okay? So a lot of the failures I see are right here, where these pins get stuck. So anytime you take the brakes apart, just make sure that they're moving, even though these are brand new, but make sure that they're moving. Make sure you use grease on the on the contact points, and then you can put your pads back in. Always make sure that your wear indicator goes in the same way it came off. On mine, the wear indicator was on the bottom on this side. I know some vehicles, they're on the top of the brake pad, some are on the bottom. Could be right, could be wrong, but either way, it always goes on the inside. Well, no, that's not true. I've had them on a GM where on the rear brakes where there's actually a wear indicator on the inside and the outside. So now I'm going to have to collapse those pistons. Nope, nope. There we go. Now you can put everything back together. And then do the same for the other side if you need to. So that's going to wrap up this part of doing the brakes. I'm not going to make another video for doing the tie rod end. So yeah, when you come back, we'll be working on that. So, tie rod ends. We all have them. We all hate doing them. So here's what's going on with this one. Clearly shot. So here's how you get it apart. Alright, so doing the tie rod end. Sometimes they could be easy, sometimes they could be a real bear. First thing you're going to do, 98 Ford Ranger, take out this cotter pin, 21 millimeter socket, and then the fight that you're going to have is usually going to be here. Once you get this loose, this should come out and spin. So what I generally do is I'll take I'll start with a propane torch only because I like to go from the least aggressive to the most aggressive on things. You know, that heat can go up here, get into the rack and pinion, and damage things or melt this spoot. Or if you're using a big torch and you're not careful, you're going to end up burning up your CV joint back here. So like I said, I like to go from the easiest to the, well, from the coldest to the hottest. How's that? So I'm going to try breaking this loose, and we'll see what happens. Alright, so there's still some steam coming off of it, but a little bit of heat, and the jam nut is now unjammed. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure, I should say we're going to count these threads that are in here before this comes off, so that we know exactly where to put the new one on, so that we're close on the alignment. And then we're going to do a quick garage alignment here. I'll show you how to do that, because I'm not going to have time to get this thing to an alignment shop anytime in the foreseeable future, just because my life is like that. So, yeah, let me get this apart. Alright, so the nut's off. I usually use a impact gun on these if I can. Now normally, when you go to remove these, you might have seen or not seen this before, but people sit here and try to hit this up like this. That ain't going to happen. What you need to do is you need to hit here to shock. This is a tapered fit, tapered like this. So you need to shock this so it pops out, and it may take you a while. There goes my light. There it goes. So that's all it takes. Now that's out of there, and don't forget, this is still hot. So don't go grabbing it with your hands. So now you can see that these are both exactly the same from the center of the rod to the end here. So that's why I said don't move that jam nut. Because now when this goes back on, it'll be right in the exact same spot that it should be, hopefully, and the alignment won't be too far off. Okay, so according to the factory service manual online, torque spec for this should be 37 pounds. There we go. Now, once you torque it, you're going to see, where the hell is it? You're going to see the hole for your cotter pin. If you're off by a little bit, give it a little tweak to get it lined up. And then put your cotter pin back in. Tighten up your jam nut. You're done. Okay, maybe you're not done. My mistake. Kind of in a rush today. Going to see Deadpool. Going out for dinner with some friends, so I'm trying to get this done. Okay, so your last step actually is to put in your little Zerk fitting here, or grease fitting. I guess depending on what kind of part of the country you're from, sort of like the whole pop and soda debate. Sometimes it can be a little tricky to get started. Generally, I need two hands to do this, but let's see what kind of a day we're going to have here. There we go. Okay, now that that's done, and I'm going to put you down for a second. Now that that's done, you go ahead and grease this up. Generally, you want to go until you see the boots start to move. That's when you know you got enough. I'd say that's enough. Okay. That is that. Let's look a little bit of schmucks on the top. Now, you're done. Okay, so everything's done. Back on the ground. What I mean by a garage alignment is when you do this kind of work, you're going to have to go to a shop and get a professional front end alignment. Basically what you do, while the truck is still up in the air, hold it up by the lower control arms so that there's a load on them. As you know, on these Fords, you get them up in the air, the wheels start doing this. So what you do is you measure from the center of the back of the tires to the center of the front of the tires. So from here to there we go. You take that measurement, take a measurement on the back. They got to be close. They got to be like within 1/8 of an inch. That's going to be your toe. That's really what's going to screw up your steering. So, we all seen cars going down the road that look like Marty Feldman, where you got one tire straight, the other tire is trying to make a right turn. So that'll get you close enough to get to the shop and get an alignment done. But, yeah, you may have to get a little angry with it. I didn't record it because I'm by myself, but on the driver's side, I did have to break out the big oxy torch, heat that up cherry red, and then spin that off. That wasn't any fun whatsoever. But other than that, everything else went exactly the way it was supposed to. Looked a couple of things over, did some PM on it, and that's it. Back to driving it and going to see Deadpool tonight. Nice. One other note, little safety PSA, if you will. Working on cars can be dangerous. Fabricating can be dangerous. So where you see me using, the grinder, or I'm using a cutoff wheel, at a minimum, put on a pair of safety glasses. If you have a full face shield, use that instead. Those blades spin at 10,000 RPM. They get loose. You're going to have pieces of cutoff wheel in your face or through your throat. So at a minimum, safety glasses, gloves, hearing protection. If you got a full face shield, wear that. An ANSI approved one, not some cheap one from, Harbor Freight. Other than that, just have fun with it. And if you can, make sure you have an EMT on standby in case you get hurt. There she is. If you don't have an EMT in your garage, go down to your local Harbor Freight, see if you can find one. Until we see you next time, peace.